In 1921, Ada Blackjack, a 23-year-old Inupiat woman, lived a quiet life in Nome, Alaska. She was not an adventurer or an explorer, but a mother facing desperate times and seeking a way to provide for her sick son. She heard of an expedition to the remote Wrangel Island. They needed a seamstress and a cook. Though she was terrified of the journey, the pay was enough to give her son the care he desperately needed. Ada joined 4 young men, full of ambition and dreams of glory. They saw the Arctic as a challenge to be conquered. Ada simply saw it as a job, a means to an end for the love of her child. They landed on Wrangel Island in September. It was a vast, silent world of ice and rock. The 5 of them were the only human souls for hundreds of miles, a tiny outpost in an immense and unforgiving wilderness. Initially, life settled into a routine. The men hunted and explored the frozen land. Ada performed her duties, mending their fur clothing and preparing meals from their hunted game and dwindling supplies. It was a fragile existence. A year passed. The team scanned the horizon daily for the relief ship that was scheduled to arrive and take them home. But the horizon remained empty. The Arctic ice had not broken up that summer, trapping them. Anxiety began to creep into the small camp. Their supplies were running low, and the long, dark winter was approaching once more. The mood grew somber as the reality of their isolation set in. The lack of proper nutrition took its toll. One of the men, Lorne Knight, began to grow weak, his body ravaged by the debilitating effects of scurvy. His health declined rapidly in the harsh conditions. In January 1923, with Knight too sick to travel, the other 3 men made a desperate choice. They would try to cross the 700 miles of frozen sea to Siberia to find help, leaving Ada behind. Ada watched them go until they were just specks in the distance. They were never seen again. Now, she was left to care for the dying man in the crushing silence of the Arctic. Caring for Knight was a difficult ordeal. He was often delirious and cruel, blaming Ada for his condition. Yet she persisted, hunting, cooking, and tending to him as best she could with what little she had. For months, she endured this bleak routine. The world was reduced to the confines of the tent and the endless expanse of white outside. Her only companion besides Knight was the expedition's cat, Vic. In June 1923, Lorne Knight died. Ada, using her small strength, dug a grave in the frozen ground. She was now completely, terrifyingly alone in one of the most remote places on Earth. Fear was her constant companion. She had been raised to be afraid of firearms, but survival demanded she overcome it. She had to learn to shoot, or she would starve. Polar bears were a constant threat, their massive forms lumbering near her camp. She learned to build a platform to store her food safely out of their reach and used noise to scare them away. She taught herself to be a hunter and a trapper. She would catch Arctic foxes and seals, providing her with food and furs. Each small success was a victory against the overwhelming odds. Her cat, Vic, became her only confidant. She would speak to the small animal, sharing her fears and her hopes. The cat's simple presence was a comfort against the profound loneliness. Using driftwood and canvas, she constructed a small skin boat, just like her ancestors had. She was preparing for any possibility, adapting her skills to the brutal environment she now knew so well. The summer of 1923 arrived, and the sea ice finally began to break apart. Open water appeared on the horizon, bringing with it a fragile new hope for rescue. She scanned the sea every day. She kept a diary, documenting her daily life. It was a testament to her resilience, a record of her struggle and survival. Each entry was an act of defiance against the emptiness. Then one day in August, she saw it, a dark shape on the water. It was not a whale or an illusion. It was a ship. After 2 years, her isolation was finally coming to an end. A man named Harold Noyce landed on the island. He found not a victim, but a survivor. Ada Blackjack stood there, small and weathered, the sole master of her desolate kingdom. She left Rangel Island behind, a place of immense hardship and profound transformation. The shy seamstress who had arrived 2 years earlier was gone, replaced by a woman of incredible strength. Ada returned to civilization and was briefly hailed as a hero. She used the money she earned to get medical treatment for her son, Bennett, fulfilling the promise that had sent her on the journey. She lived the rest of her life quietly, away from the spotlight. Her story was not one of glory or fame, but of quiet endurance and the incredible power of a mother's love. Ada's journey proves that the most extraordinary courage is often found not in loud declarations, but in the silent refusal to give up. It shows that even in the bleakest isolation, the will to live can blossom.